Everybody, it's Brian Shannon from AlphaTrends.net. Today's Friday, the 20th of November, 2020. Hope your week was a good one in the markets. Basically, we were mixed here a little bit. Semiconductors and Russell 2000 higher, oil, financials, etc. were a little higher, but the S&P and the Nasdaq dropped a little bit. A lot of people talk about the market too much, I think, and by that I mean, is it a stock market where everything has to go up together, or should we be more focused on the market of stocks and the individual opportunities? I'm always a believer that there are strong correlations throughout the market, but there are better times when it's just a better opportunity to look at the individual stocks, and that's where we are this week. The S&P 500 did hold above this prior band of resistance. On the 15-minute time frame, we're below the 5-day moving average, but we're really just kind of range bound in here, with the lower boundary really kind of being defined by the month-to-date volume weighted average price, and the upper boundary up here in 360 to 363. So range bound market, but we have all these great opportunities in the individual names. Same is true for the Nasdaq, kind of range bound here as well. If it can get back above 294 next week, then I think we're likely to see new all-time highs there. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about the markets and the individual ETFs. Instead, I want to focus on the stock action because we had some fantastic action. Let's talk about Apple first. As mentioned on Wednesday, that was stopped out. It's below the declining 5-day moving average. There are so many good trading stocks out there. I don't know why everyone is focused on Apple all the time. Next week, we're going to want to see, however, that Apple does hold in this 115-ish area. That's where we have that 50-day moving average. That's that green line in there. And then the volume weighted average price from this peak, this low, this peak, and this low, all kind of together in that area. So if you're interested in Apple, you want to see that level hold, and probably needs to clear 121 for that stock to continue to move higher. I had mentioned in last Friday's video shares of Riot, and Riot just had a phenomenal week here and can still move higher. I think the stock is still one that I'm long with a stop of $5.39 per share. We spoke about a number of other names as well. And in fact, I had mentioned on Twitter the shares of FUV. I mentioned the shares of FUV. I believe it was right over here at this point, right before it just really ramped higher. I mean, look at the chart on this stock. It was in this little zone right in here. I think it was 860, and it just actually absolutely exploded from there. The opportunities are there. We also spoke about Ballard Power last week, and Ballard Power has done exactly what we wanted to do. I'm still long a little bit of this one with a stop right now in Ballard at actually two stops. I've got half of my stop at 1820, and then the balance at 1740 after getting long at 1647. So again, the opportunities are there. We're seeing dramatic moves in a lot of stock prices, and this is really a great time of year to be trading. If you followed on Twitter, I had mentioned a couple things about shares of AAXN, that we had seen basically a double pinch, and by that I mean double volume weighted average price pinch. Where we had first seen a volume weighted average price pinch was that this volume weighted average price held as a place where buyers were found. The price then pinched between those two volume weighted average price levels. It gapped up and the buyers regained control. Well, then if we take a look at the next one, what we saw was this volume weighted average price from this low held perfectly for where the buyers were found, and then from this gap higher we saw that there was resistance there. So as it broke above that level, that's where I got long at a price of, where's my notes on the price that I own, AAXN 121.88. I've got two stops in that one as well. These are ideas that I talk about every single day for subscribers to Alpha Trends. We're involved in CYH. Now CYH hasn't really gone yet, but you can see it's got a nice longer term base on this weekly time frame. Certainly looks like it has room to run. We got involved as it made the higher high above the flat to rising 5-day moving average, and we'll continue to hold that one. By the way, I will mention again that for an annual subscription to Alpha Trends, it's usually $799. For the rest of this next week, it'll be $599, and you'll be able to keep that rate as long as you're a subscriber, getting ideas like ARRY today getting involved in this one at $43.98 per share. Shares of PPSI we entered today at a price of $3.70 per share. There are fantastic opportunities out there still. Let's talk about a couple of them. Let's talk about shares of Pfizer. Last week, I'd mentioned how the CEO had sold his stock. Here's where we are now. The volume weighted average price from the event, that is when the company reported that their vaccine was effective. The stock gapped up. The CEO sold his money, sold his stock rather, and raised cash. And we've seen the volume weighted average price from that level declining. Well, now it's flattening out. And I think that if it can get back above today's high, which is Friday, that next week it's got a good opportunity for possibly some continuation. An initial protective stop would go under here if you wanted to keep it tighter underneath this level. And by the way, we're looking at a 15-minute chart. To back it up to the daily time frame to frame it, you can see that the stock had broken this downtrend line. It's back above it after some shaky movement in the stock, and you don't have to buy on the news. Look at how much opportunity there was elsewhere in the market this week to not tie you up in a piece of garbage stock with a good story. And I call it a piece of garbage stock because the people who bought based on the news, guess what? They're still losing money. The people who bought on that good news are losing money. I'm not in the market to lose money. We're there to make money, and we're going to do so hopefully next week with stocks like YALA. I put this one on Twitter as well. It has been pinching between the volume weighted average price from the IPO. You can see that the volume weighted average price had flattened out. It came down and touched it this week. By the way, this was an earnings report here, and they were great earnings, but the stock was down. That's why I got out of the stock prior to the earnings. But now it's pinching between the volume weighted average price from the IPO. We can see that. And this volume weighted average price from the peak is declining. Well, next week, I think if it can get back above today's high, you could probably get involved in this one with a stop just underneath this level here. And that's something I'll update each day for subscribers to Alpha Trends. SRCL. I had mentioned that it was one I was interested in this week because it had this long-term base that it broke beyond. And again, if they don't scare you out on the way down, they'll typically wear you out. Now, however, the buyers are back in control of this stock. It trades 618,000 shares per day. This prior resistance is trying to hold his support with a rising 20-day moving average, but we never got involved in the stock. This is what I was looking for, was to see it pull back and then buy strength. I don't want to buy it with a declining 5-day moving average. That's my number one cardinal rule for swing trades. If the 5-day moving average is declining, I don't want to be involved. So what I'd sketched out for subscribers was if it could do this and hold above that month to date, that's the blue volume weighted average price, we might get involved. Instead, it hasn't done that. It's still below the volume weighted average price from this event. So I'll keep an eye on it next week, but it's not quite ready yet. And we'll continue to watch it. Like I said, crypto's had a big week. I'd mentioned that my favorite one on the long-term chart right now is Ethereum, and Ethereum just really started getting into gear here. This is a weekly chart, but this daily time frame really just kind of started getting into gear a little bit today. I had previously mentioned it right over here at 405. Litecoin is really starting to move nicely as well, playing some catch up to the to its big brother Bitcoin. I think that where I'm looking to likely take a little bit of profit is up near the volume weighted average price from the all-time high. Bitcoin looks like it's running for a new all-time high. This is TrendSpider software, by the way. I'm going to provide a link on alphatrends.net with this post. If you're interested in their software and the anchor volume weighted average price, you can see as easy as right click and then entering it there. You can get this software for 50% off right now. So that'll do it. Have a good weekend, and I'll talk to you next week. Thank you.